My name is Ogunyinka, and last summer I completed a research project about decolonising the curriculum. I'm sure this phrase sounds familiar, but its meaning is subjective.
So in practice, what decolonising the curriculum means to me is removing dead white men. It means the curriculum chasing modern liberal progressive views in attempting to be more representative.
Decolonial knowledge is not black knowledge. It's not knowledge about black history specifically, whilst that is an important foundation of it. But decolonial knowledge itself is about how we think, how we are, how we became, and who we are becoming.
It challenges institutions from the statues they include on campuses to the scholars on the curriculum. And over the last 18 months, this topic has repeatedly been discussed due to the murder of George Floyd. So, over the course of 4 weeks, I spoke with educationalists Katayoun Shafiee of the University of Warwick, Taiwo Ogunyinka of Warwick University, and cultural commentator Calvin Robinson to determine how far universities should decolonise their curriculum. I started off my journey at the University of Warwick. Here, I spent nearly 2 weeks researching the decolonising the curriculum debate. I became best friends with the librarian because I knew the work I put in behind closed doors would pay off when speaking to my interviewees. Cool, this is the first official day doing the doc and actually researching. So yeah, in terms of the reading, it's been alright. Been a couple people in the library, not too many. So it's like quite a nice environment to actually study. While studying at Warwick, I found out about the origins of decolonising the curriculum. With roots in the negritude movement and the civil rights movement, initiatives to decolonise education have persisted for decades. 2015 was a turning point thanks to the Rhodes Must Fall protests at the University of Cape Town. The removal of Cecil Rhodes' statue sparked worldwide debate about the transformation of campus symbolism, the university curriculum, institutional cultures, and the professoriate. British imperialist, businessman, and former Prime Minister of the Cape Colony, Cecil Rhodes, has made the news in the UK because of his presence at Oriel College, Oxford. But this isn't the time to tell his story. It turns out Warwick has its own controversial figure on campus. Right now, I'm at Warwick and I'm outside the Radcliffe Conference Centre. It's currently a hotel and meeting centre with 154 bedrooms and 42 meeting rooms. Sounds great, right? Well, last year it was subject to a campaign against it by the student union. You see, this centre was named after Cyril Radcliffe, the first Chancellor of Warwick, and more importantly, the man who drew up the lines in the partition of British India in 1947. Before 1947, Cyril Radcliffe had never actually been to India, which is precisely why he was the man chosen to make an unbiased decision. However, this decision would affect millions. All he had were 5 weeks, out-of-date maps, inaccurate census reports, and arguing advisors. And what later became known as the Radcliffe Line displaced 12 million people and killed millions more in ensuing religious violence. Hence, the student union demanded that Warwick acknowledge its past and rename the Radcliffe. To this day, it still remains the Radcliffe Conference Centre. So what action has Warwick taken to respond to students? Should Warwick respond at all? To find out more, I spoke with the Equality and Diversity Lead in the History Department, Katayoun Shafiee. With a background in post-colonial studies, she currently teaches Middle Eastern history, specifically Iran, and she's well versed in discussions about decolonizing the curriculum.
Actually, how far do you think universities should listen to student demands or react to changes in society? Or do you think it's difficult if you've already got a fixed curriculum for universities to actually change?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just as since I started as the lead for the Equality and Diversity group, I've learned a bit more about how the university works. And so it seems that obviously the student voice should be central. I mean, that's very obvious to me, but and I think the university is gradually waking up to that. I very much appreciated the Warwick Decolonize program. I think that developed a set of recommendations in 2018 or so. So within the university, there is a lot of movement and push to make the student voice central. I think the university has a kind of social inclusion strategy / addressing, incorporating more anti-racist pedagogy sort of agenda that they hope to implement in the long term, but we haven't. We're still, I think, in the early phases. These are strategies, and so nothing has actually, I don't think, been implemented.
Do you think that universities actually listen to these types of protests? Because in the UK at least, with the Statue of Rhodes, it still remains, and also with the Radcliffe Centre. So I don't know if you think that's going to change or whether they're listening.
Yeah, I think they hear it. I think they're highly aware of it, but there's obviously a power imbalance between students and the government and the source and concentration of wealth, and so it's going to be a long process. But I think they are aware of it, and they cannot ignore this because the fabric of the population is, will not take this.
There are frameworks for change within projects at the University of Warwick, but it sounds like the implementation of this change will take time. I can't help but think that students are facing an uphill battle. Maybe working within the university isn't the way forward. Someone taking a more unconventional approach is Taiwo Ogunyinka of Free Black University. Free Black University was founded in May 2020 by Mels Owusu. It's currently an online platform that provides people with decolonial knowledge outside of universities. So, it was off to Leeds.
Lift yourself up when you stumble. Speak up, don't mumble, loud and clear, some heard. Leave the pack where you follow the herd. Listen, learn, 2 words, 2 birds, 1 stone, master both, and in your life you'll see growth. Investment is key, just ask hope, whether it's time, wealth yourself. People want fame or fortune so bad that they forget what they had, and when the times get tough, they forget when.
Right now, I'm in Leeds. I'm not here to visit anyone at the University of Leeds. I'm here to meet with Taiwo Ogunyinka of Free Black University. So I was kind of wondering, with Free Black University, is it are you still calling on universities to change their system, or are you just is it a separate organisation? It's I wouldn't say giving up on universities, but then kind of doing it your own way rather than relying on them.
So with it's not that there isn't anything universities can do, there are definite steps universities can make. to address the situation. They do have a lot of resources and influence at their disposal, and they could just immediately transform how they operate as a university for the benefit of their current students and future students. But it's hard to say, because by nature a colonial institution will only serve the colonial purpose. So with the Free Black University's vision being to transform the world, not just ameliorate oppression, university is going to go so far in that mission. So the Free Black University would not necessarily not work with universities, but there's also an awareness of sometimes efforts and resources to the academic space needs to be measured, because there's not a guarantee that the changes and the vision we want for the world will come through that space.
Even at Warwick there's like a decolonise society. But yeah, another like I was just looking in the media, so like sometimes when these debates are brought up, like the word now is like woke, and like how people criticise that, and also criticising like students for like being sensitive, or like I don't know like how would how would you kind of like respond to like those types of claims? Do you feel like those people are even trying to engage with the actual
yeah, like I said, there's different groups of people, and then there's just people who you can't convince to really made up their mind. I think it's sometimes, it's a case by case basis. Sometimes you can engage with these people on a spectacle, because sometimes it creates a bit of, I would say, joy but satisfaction to see them embarrassed, because the arguments are ridiculous, and like, what's a snowflake? How can you? Everyone is emotionally vulnerable at some point, and when karma works in mysterious ways, and when it happens to you, then you're the snowflake. I'm just thinking to like Piers Morgan and everything he said about Generation Snowflake and stuff, and then he got called out by Alex Beresford on his own show, and then he walked off sulking. It just shows that people who make these arguments are not basing it on anything, whether it's Eurocentric epistemology or a different one. They're not basing it on anything whatsoever, and it just comes around and bites them. So I would say that they're just people not worth engaging with, otherwise it would just be a spectacle. The unfortunate thing is they do have a lot of influence, they do have a lot of following, they get these big sort of TV spots, and that makes the job of young people even harder.
Someone who argues against decolonising the curriculum is Calvin Robinson. A former teacher, he is now a conservative commentator and a part of Don't Divide Us, an organisation taking a stand against the so-called divisive obsession with people's racial identity. Robinson also contributes to the Daily Telegraph, and he speaks on Talk Radio and GB News. And I had the pleasure of chatting to him over a Zoom call.
So I looked at Don't Divide Us. So I had a look on the website. But I was speaking with Free Black University, speaking with some of my professors. They spoke about like some of the sense of community that they had. So with Free Black University, teaching about certain books or certain types of history, and then people coming together. They spoke about the sense of community. So yeah, could you just expand on why you would say that maybe decolonising the curriculum could actually divide many people in the country?
Sure, because again, it's pinning everything down to race. A lot of it is pitting white people against black people. For some reason, it's just those two races. Every other race doesn't matter at the moment, probably due to Black Lives Matter. We never hear a campaign to get more Chinese or Japanese culture on our curriculum, even though we have a massive number of Chinese people living in this country. In fact, Pakistani and Indian communities are often bigger than black communities, but we don't often see more Pakistani and Indian writers on our curriculum or in our history books, it is always about black versus white, which tells me it is a cultural phenomenon rather than rooted in knowledge or statistics or representation. But the reason it's divisive is because it is separating out based on an immutable characteristic. We can't help the color of our skin. It doesn't affect our personality, our politics, our religion. It doesn't affect anything about ourselves. We could choose what kind of person we want to become regardless of our skin color. But if people are pinning us down based on our skin color, they're saying it's more important. They're saying it's the most important thing about us. And I don't think it is. I think we should focus on unity, and we should focus on the things that bring us together, being, you know, if we're talking about communities, as you mentioned, your university is a community, but wider than that, England is a community, Great Britain is a community, the United Kingdom, these are communities that we all choose to live here, we're all part of, and it doesn't matter what skin color is, what our ethnicity is, doesn't matter what religion we are, we're all part of this, something that we can build, binds us together. It's better to look at things that bind us together than things that separate us. The people that focus on the things that separate us are the ones that are divisive in our society.
Okay. So when you see like a decolonization like movement, like a lot of the time, like like phrases like woke terms like woke are used. So just wondering like what you mean like, when you say something like that, what it means.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, obviously from the left, woke meant awake to social injustices, and to people like myself on the right, we kind of use that term more ironically, because what it comes down to is people that want a virtue signal, I think. And I don't think they set out to be, everyone has good intentions. Everyone wants the best, whether you're the right or the left, we all want the best possible outcomes in life, even in regards to the curriculum. But from my perspective, what the woke lot are doing with their social justice campaign is watering down the curriculum. And it's all down to virtue signaling. It's all down to appearing good rather than teaching proper good knowledge.
So what would good knowledge look like? Is it what we already have on the curriculum?
We should always check. Sorry.
Okay.
We should always challenge the curriculum. We should always address it. It's always changing. The canon isn't fixed, but we should teach the best there is and the best there has been. We shouldn't teach what's currently popular, and we certainly shouldn't shape the curriculum around current events. So a lot of this conversation is coming from Black Lives Matter, the unfortunate demise of George Floyd, which has nothing to do with this country. But we should definitely not shape a curriculum around an event like that. We should have educationists sitting down every year to address what needs to be changed, if anything, on the curriculum. Nothing to do with current events or the media.
I'm reflecting on my conversations. I couldn't help but think that people on both sides of the argument have more in common with each other than they think. When looking at the Don't Divide Us website, I came across one of Calvin's lessons about Commonwealth soldiers during World War II. Now, although Calvin doesn't view this knowledge as decolonial, in the past, many of us might not have thought about the experiences of Australian, Indian, or Jamaican soldiers during World War II. To me, it seems very similar to what those on the side of decolonising the curriculum would be pushing for. We need to get on the same page in terms of understanding what decolonising the curriculum means, knowing what is actually taught at universities, and implementing the strategies for change. Maybe then we can reach a solution.
I swear it's all timing. When you see the stars aligning, I swear it's all perfect. When you got answers and working, and it comes from pain. But I know that it's all just a game. So anything I want, I can take it. See this world right here, I can shake it.